Hi, my name is Elliott. I'm Executive Director of the Wonderful Eye Project. I have quite a story that I've somewhat encountered, if you would. I was Vice President of Human Resources in the year 2000 at St. Francis in Grand Island, Nebraska. When we were fully staffed, we had 1,100 employees. The tragic reality was we were not fully staffed, nor could we be. The problem was, in fact, when, for example, a nurse has 4 patients and is given 1 more, mortality goes up 7%. If they get as many as 8 patients rather than 4, mortality will be about 30% higher. The net consequence is not acceptable. The hospital turned to me and said, you have to find a way. In chatting with the employees, they said, please come back and develop a strategic plan for creating a work environment that is so wholesome and enriching that when people hear about it, they want to come to work here. When they get there, they don't want to quit. I asked, how would I start? And the employees said, start with conflict. We did do so. We started training people on how to have high quality conflict. The results were quite attractive. Even so, we still found people with residual hard feelings, which of course fed into the subsequent conflicts. We then said the seeming way to get rid of that, or at least reduce that, is to teach forgiveness. We used Fred Luskin's work out of Stanford on teaching people how to forgive. We called the training grudge busting. The next training that came along was based on Martin Seligman's work at the time, Authentic Happiness. We created a training program on happiness. Of course, a key element of training on happiness is friendship, and a driver of friendship is trust. Hence, our next training program was trust. The next training element was in fact resilience. We'd had some tough things happen at the hospital and people said, how do we deal with this? I found Ravitch and Chatte's work and immediately put together a training program on how do you bounce? How do you deal with these life events that are so difficult? And of course, if you're going to do resilience, with that would come stress. And we used Sapolsky's work, the primatologist out of Stanford, and said this is what happens when an individual experiences stress. What's the physiological changes and what's the damage done? That set the stage quite nicely for us to be in a position to teach people mindfulness, to teach them meditation. We used Richardson's work on meditation and found really good response for the employees. I was surprised by that. That led to one more training program. Things were going so well, we were getting such a good response that the people were telling us that they wanted more. Based on comments made by a Catholic monk at our organization, I thought, maybe the next step is to develop a training program that will keep us from developing into Enron. Make sure that that does not happen. In course of discussion, we decided we would create a training program called the Psychology of Morality, or the Psychology of Good and Evil. And that's exactly what we did. We trained on how to develop moral reasoning, etc. From there, we went to a focus group and began to look at the feedback from the people. We began to look at the results of the training. We got a 40% drop in turnover, 50% drop in job vacancy. We got the results we were hoping for, triple the number of applications. Mark Stelk, an owner at the company of a company locally, said, why don't you in fact do this for his company? We did. His results were such that he said, why don't you do this for the whole community? A community of 50,000 people in Grand Island, Nebraska. We did. In the years 2012 and 2013, we trained 1,600 people from 102 different companies. We saw changes in work culture. We saw increases in happiness. The results were solid. From there, we were approached by Riverside Lodge to offer to elders. We did. We saw elders who did not get the training, in fact, were 12% down in activities of daily living, the capacity to stay independent. The people who did get the training saw no decline. And most recently, we've been asked to go to Lexington Regional Health Center, where we in fact done the same training, or starting the same training, after they lost 75% of their doctors in an effort to reduce trauma at that organization. My sincere thanks to you. If you have any questions in this very quick presentation, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. My thanks.